Okay, so the last few days we talked about, was there deception in the 3-day thing? Yes, no, all the possibilities. We dealt with the status of the loans. Were they loans? Were they gifts? Did they become spoils of war? Which I don't think we explored too much, but it's pretty obvious how that works, so I don't need to get into that too much. The last thing I want to do is the following. Did the Jews ever get their promised 3-day Chag LaHashem? So one could assume that the answer to that is no, they did not. So, on the other hand, one can answer that they did. They did. Now, what is that 3-day Chag? So here we have multiple possibilities. Now, before I get into, I'll outline 2 specific possibilities. What Yosef points out is correct, which is, I was listening to a shir on my way, where he points out that whatever you think the 3-day was supposed to be, it's clear that around, in this section of Tanakh, but not even just here, this notion of 3 days to be how much time you need for a spiritual celebration or reflection, and that's how much time you need to inculcate values. That theme is super intense in these parashiot, and also true in all of Tanakh. So you get, and this is one that we'll talk about, the 3 days tomorrow, but you also get the 3 days before Har Sinai, and as Chazal note in their beautiful midrash, it's not just that it's the 3 days to Sinai. It's the 3rd day of the right, on the 3rd day of the 3rd month. They prepare for 3 days, right? And the Torah is given by Moshe, who's the 3rd son, right? The midrash goes through. There is a 3 theme going on there.
The 3rd son or the 3rd
child? The 3rd child. But he notes there's other places in Tanakh. So, for example, you get it in Esther. 3 days of fasting, and then I'll be spiritually ready. So this theme of a 3-day preparation, you get 3 days by Yehoshua going to Eretz Yisrael. 3 days and we'll be ready to enter. Right? Meaning this is not a theme that does not appear over. Like this is something that is true throughout. But let's give 2 possibilities of where you see that perhaps the Jews actually got their 3-day holiday. Okay? I'm not actually going to know the direction of Har Sinai, 100%. I do agree with you that it's connected, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. But before I get to that one, possibility 1, both of these possibilities I'll discuss are our Parsha. Har Sinai is already next week, so, yeah, what can I do? Possibility 1 is...
the first 3 days tomorrow.
Well, no, even before that. Possibility 1, this is from Yitzchak et Shalom, it's Az Yashir. Now, why would you say that? How is this 3 days? So you have 2 possibilities. If you accept Chazal that that Kriyat Yom Tov happened on day 7, so then you just have to say 3 days means a 3-day distance, not 3 days of time, and it just took them longer, which we talked about already earlier this week, which is not like a terrible jump. You could just say, right? Again, we know this. Maybe you don't know this yet, but it takes more time to walk with strollers, okay? Just know that. But remember, if Yaakov says this to Esav, for people who Metzius isn't a good enough proof, I'll give you a pasuk, and that's Yaakov says to Esav, go ahead, I'll meet you because I have kids and I can't rush. Okay, so Raya from Metzius, Raya from Psukim, whatever you want. So it could be there was a 3-day journey. It took more than 3 days. Possibility 2, which Ra'et Shalom endorses, is that in Pshat, we actually don't know how many days it took. Chazal tell you that it's the 7th day. But in Pshat, it is very possible that this is only 3 days total. Because he notes that if you see Vayisu Misakot V'achanu Ve'etam B'Ktzei HaMidbar, right, we know that they they sleep. We hear about them sleeping once in a tam. So it means they leave, and they sleep over one night, which brings you to the 16th, and then the Egyptians meet up with them, and then they are stalled all night, Right? The only 2 nights we explicitly hear about here are the night they sleep in Etam, meaning the night of the 15th going into the 16th, right? And the night in which the Egyptians are chasing them and are stopped by the cloud, which is, so you only hear about 2 nights, which means that in Pshat, you could just say that this happens on day 3, on the 17th of Nisan. So however you want to get to it, he argues that the Chag LaHashem is Az Yashir. Why? Well, he says, you might have thought it's Karbanot, except Moshe says over and over that why does he need to bring all the animals and money and gold, right? Money and weapons and instruments. Why are they bringing all this things? What's Moshe's explanation? What did he say?
We need everything.
Because? No, he says, because I don't know what God is going to want from us until I get there. Right? That's what Moshe says. Meaning we don't know what type of celebration this is going to be. And therefore, he says, if we don't know what celebration is, we might have thought it was Karbanot, but it may turn out to be Shirah, which is another form of sacrifice to God. And he says it's not crazy, because if you look at Az Yashir, in Az Yashir you see that it is the culmination of all the Lashonot of Geulah. Maybe you never noticed that. Did you notice that Az Yashir mentions every one of the Lashonot of Geulah and brings them to fruition? No. So now let's look at it very, very quickly. What are the Arba Lashonot of Geulah? Good. So let's go through it. Yeah, we're going to get to all of them. So what are they? Vehitzalti. Okay, good. Good. So let's go through it. So, Adonai Ish Milchama, Adonai Shemo. God is a God of war. Markevot Paro v'Chelo Yarav Hayam u'Mivchar Shalishavtu v'Yamsuf. Which one is that? Well, Ve'otzeti is easy. We're already out of Egypt. Great. V'itzalti. We were being chased, and you drowned our enemies. Right? Right. Tomot Yechasum Yerdum Tol Ko'aven. Kimoaven. Yimincha Adonai Taratzo Yev. Etc. Uverov Gon Chataros Kamecha. Tzalachon Chayachom Kakash. All those. Or the most clear is Amar Oyev Erdof Asig. Or the enemy said they were going to, conquer us, and right, that didn't happen. Great. That's Hotzeiti v'Hitzalti. What about Ga'alti? Nachita v'chastecha amzu Ga'alta. Nehalta v'ascha el nevei kachecha. Great. V'lakachti is Tipol aleihem ematav afachad bigdol zracha yidmu kaven ad yavor amcha Adonai ad yavor amzu kanita. Right? To acquire. Right? The nation you acquired. And then what's the next pasuk? Tivi'emo v'tide'emo b'har nachlatcha. Machon l'shitecha pa'alta Adonai mikdash v'nai kodin yedecha. And how is that going to happen? How are they going to get to Eretz Yisrael? So this is from earlier, which is Shamu Amim Yirgazun Chilachad Dozrei Palashet, because all the other nations are also scared. Which means that Az Yashir is saying you have accomplished 4, and you have not promised. That the splitting of Yam Suf itself has scared people, so that the 5th is possible, and now we're going to go and inherit Eretz Yisrael, which is what they were supposed to do in a matter of months. So Rei Etshalom argues that they got their celebration, and they got their Chag, and their Chag wasn't, as they thought, Karbanot, but their Chag was a Chag of Shirah. Possibility 2, and this is suggested by Rei Alex Israel and others, is more on the lines of what Yosef said, which is, what is the ultimate Chag that we can have? Kabbalat HaTorah. Right? Kabbalat Torah. So you could say it's Har Sinai, and I think that Har Sinai is definitely invoking this But we have a pre-Har Sinai.
Tomorrow, didn't they get
Very good.
Shabbos?
Bidiyuk. But we have a pre-Har Sinai, which happens after 3 days in the desert. Which means that Har Sinai is probably take 2, but not the original one that we were talking about. It's just because this theme of a 3-day preparation for a celebration of God just comes up multiple times. But the first one is by just the next, you skip 2 psukim after the end of Az Yashir, and you get Vayasa Moshe et Yisrael miyam suf, Vayetzu al midbar shur, Vayelchu Shloshet yamim ba'midbar v'lo matzu mayim. Wow, 3 days into the desert. That sounds familiar. And they get to Marah, and what happens at Marah? There's a miracle with the water, and Sham Sam Lo Chok Umishpat V'Sham Nisau. God gave them laws. There's a huge machloket. Does that mean he gave them certain mitzvot? Right? Chazal say he gave them Shabbos and he gave them dinim. According to Ramban, he gave them ethical laws. Whatever, he gave them some sort of Torah to get them ready for the actual receiving of the Torah. And if it weren't clear that this is preparing him, he then says in the next pasuk, "Vayomer im shamoa tishma lekol Adonai Elohecha, vayashar beinav taaseh, va'azantal mitzvotav, v'shamarta kol kukav, kol ha'machalash asandi mitzrayim lo asim alecha, ki ani Adonai rovecha." If you keep my mitzvah, then I will continue to protect you from anything that happened in Mitzrayim. Which means that the next time they go into the desert and they have 3 days, after 3 days, God performs a miracle, and He gives them Torah. Right? He gives them Torah. And therefore, I think possibility 2 is that, yes, indeed, they get their 3-day celebration, they get Torah. And I agree with Yosef, that I would suggest that this theme keeps coming up. That this is sort of the test run. Let's go into 3 days, learn to trust me, I'll give you a few mitzvot, get you into the mood of taking mitzvot. Then take another 7 weeks, and at the end of that, we're going to get another 3-day preparation, and then welcome to all 613. But that notion, now what do Chazal read into the story of Marah? If this point weren't clear enough,
That it's a holiday.
that lo matzu mayim, ein mayim ela Torah. They didn't learn Torah. And therefore, what did Moshe do on the 3rd day in Marah?
Created Mayim.
No. He was mitaken that you have to be korei b'Torah every 3 days, on Monday and Thursday and Shabbos. That Chazal attribute that all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu at this moment.
I thought it was Israel.
I was going to say, how does...
Yes, the Gemara tries to figure that out. But originally, the Gemara says that the early... Again, how you work out the two, the Gemara deals with is Gemara and Bavo Kamo Pei Beis.
They didn't have a Torah to read.
Yeah. Not the point. The Gemara sees the seeds. Not the point. The Gemara sees seeds of this notion of, right, in the time of Moshe, this notion that you have to be reading Torah every 3 days. Right, that you have to be in some way making sure that you at least have a communal interaction with Torah every 3rd day. And therefore, I think possibility 2 is that, possibility 1 is they get their 3-day celebration. It's the Shira of Az Yashir. Again, whether you think, like Re'et Shalom, it actually takes 3 days, or you want to take that and modify it and say it was a 3-day distance, but it took 7 days, and therefore you maintain Chazal's notion that it happened the last day of Pesach. Doesn't really matter for this purpose. The second possibility is to say, no, we actually know they went 3 days into the desert, and then God gives them Torah. They accept Torah. What is more of a Chag LaHashem than that? And that is the practice round for the real 3-day preparation in the desert, which is Kabbalah HaTorah. Now, if you want to say that, no, the real 3-day celebration is Matan Torah, I'm okay with that also. It could be, right? It could totally be. The fact that there are multiple things that could be the 3 days, that's part of the point, I think, is this theme that we need 3 days to inculcate Torah values, so we do that multiple times. And therefore you want to say that the Chag LaHashem of 3 days, that there's more than one of them in the weeks following following Yetziat Mitzrayim, is a Gam B'Seder. I think that's a plausible shot. Anyways, but at least 2 of them come up in BESHALACH. If you think it's Matan Torah, then we'll have to wait for next week for Parshas Yisro, and then Tov. What?
So,
It's a good parsha. It's a good parsha. I don't need to tell you, it's a good parsha. Okay, it's a parsha that if you want to have vorts on for bar mitzvah speech, there are plenty.